Hello, welcome to another AQA A-Level Sociology revision video, and today we're going to be doing the beliefs topic. The first segment is ideology, science, and religion. Definitions of religion have to include all world religions. As there's such a diversity of religious belief systems, sociologists have struggled to produce a single definition accepted by all. Western sociologists use Christianity as their starting point, resulting in a Christocentric definition. Christocentric refers to the fact that Western sociologists of religion tend to overfocus on Christianity and neglect the influence and impact of non-Christian religions. The inclusive or functional definitions approach defines a set of beliefs as religious if the beliefs have a positive social and psychological use or function for individuals and societies. From this perspective, any belief can be defined as religious if it functions to inspire and unite communities in terms of faith, devotion, and commitment. However, Marxist Aldridge argues that they may be too broad. Many non-religious belief systems such as science, philosophy, and atheism are also concerned with explaining the problem of human condition. Exclusive or substantive definitions approach explains what religion is by referring to characteristics unique to religious belief systems like a belief in God. They highlight actions and practices that assume the existence of superhuman, supernatural, mystical, or magical beings and powers. All religions distinguish between sacred and profane. Late modernist Giddens suggests that many definitions of religion don't focus exclusively on the relationship between the supernatural and humanity. For example, like in Buddhism, they don't actually have a god, they just have a religious figure. Durkheim and Marx don't believe in religion, and it is therefore the product of humans. They argue that they were socially invented by societies to explain the unexplainable, to bring communities together or justify inequality. Feminist sociologists believe religions have been deliberately created by men to justify the patriarchy. Animism refers to beliefs what a spiritual or supernatural force organizes and shapes their physical or material world. Animals, plants, mountains, volcanoes, and other natural things are believed to contain a spirit that positively or negatively affect the human world. Totemism is when tribes or clans adopt a totem as their divine protector and provider. A totem is some sort of aspect of nature believed to contain supernatural elements. Followers draw images or carve the totems to symbolize the divine and the center of worship. Functionalist Durkheim analysed the Australian totemism and observed that their objects were regarded as sacred and taboo. They symbolized the supernatural power and emblematic of the clan itself. Theistic focus on a belief in a sacred, higher and controlling power, including gods. This power is viewed as the source of moral codes of behaviour, and there are two types: monotheistic belief in one power and polytheistic belief in plurality of gods. Dixon compared the belief systems of science and religion and identified the following differences between them. In science, it's an open belief system, open to criticism, scrutiny, and testing from others. Karl Popper argues if we try to falsify a hypothesis, it's more likely to be a scientific truth. Scientific knowledge is cumulative as it builds on the knowledge of other scientists. They gather knowledge by observation and by forming hypotheses, collecting data through standardized and rationalized ways, and have objective and value-free discipline in the pursuit of evidence. Religion is a close belief system, as religious knowledge is sacred and can't be challenged. It can't grow or change as it's the absolute truth. Those who challenged it will be punished for their hearsay. Concerned with the metaphysical, physical, or spiritual world which is presumed to exist by religious people. Religious phenomena can't be proven, so it makes claims about knowledge that can't successfully be overturned. Religious knowledge depends on faith, which is subjective and irrational. Experiences are personal, exclusive, and unique to the individual that can't be replicated or generalized. It can be argued that science resembles religion in many ways and that there are more similarities than differences. Science isn't always anti-religious, and many religions are accepting of scientific ideas such as evolution. Both anthropogenic approaches as they see human beings as the center of the universe. Both are dominated by paradigms that result in alternative ways of thinking or practice being dismissed as heretical or wrong. Both include stories that are dependent on faith. They lay people blindly following science despite not understanding how science works in practice. There are intolerance on both sides of the religion and science divide. Postmodernists argue that both religion and science are meta-narratives. Feminists and Marxists argue that both religion and science are ideologies in the favour of either the bourgeoisie or the patriarchy. Postmodernists like Lyotard argue that science and religion are meta-narratives that falsely claim to possess the truth. People have become skeptical of all meta-narratives that tell them what is right and wrong and how to live their lives. People no longer seek truth from a single belief system like science or a single religion. They pick and choose from a variety of beliefs. This is called spiritual shopping. Conventional religions are turned away from New Age spiritual movements like sects and cults. However, scientific beliefs are tested against evidence and are therefore still seen by members of society as more objective and valid forms of truth than religion. Bruce argues that people can see science always as superior outcomes to religion. Postmodernists also exaggerate the extent to which science has lost influence. Scientific technology underpins the smooth running of society, people's identity and lifestyle. However, it is true that people of today are more aware of the negative effects of science than in the past. Marxists argue science is an ideology that works in favour of powerful groups. Advances are made in the interests of capitalists for more profit and power. Science and technology are the foundations of the capitalist production. This revolutionised the labour process and made it easier to exploit the working class for their surplus value. It increased the spread of global capitalism. Scientific developments in agriculture benefited food, transnational companies, and global capitalism, rather than people of the developing world. Science's good reputation distracts members of society from the fact that the wealthy have used science to acquire more wealth and power at their expense. There is some evidence to suggest that science and technology may be used to construct platforms that are critical of global capitalism, for the example, the use of social media apps to organise protests. Feminist Krasnow et al. Point out that the institutions of science have a long tradition of excluding women as practitioners. The ideology of science is routinely used to marginalise women as subjects of scientific inquiry and to suggest that the sciences are inherently of masculine domain to which women are unsuited. When women enter science, their idea adjusts to gender-neutral meritocracy. When women fail to climb the scientific hierarchy, it's suggested that there are innate sexual differences in talent. Marx describes how patriarchal ideology based on science was used to justify the exclusion of women from education until the 1930s. However, this explanation is outdated, as now the law that employers can't discriminate when employing based on a number of details, including gender. Many women have been successful in STEM subjects, and a lot of religions now allow women to be more important figures and leaders. Sociologists use the term ideology to illustrate how belief systems relate to the distribution of power in society. An ideology is a set of beliefs that aim to legitimate or justify the position of power groups in society and unfair social structures. Marxists and feminists suggest that religion is an ideology that works for the benefit of the capitalist ruling class and for men. Interactionist Gome argues that Darwin's theory of evolution was used in an ideological way to justify British colonialism. However, functionalist Leach argues that Christianity was used to describe slaves and indigenous people in British colonies as subhuman, degenerate, damned souls and a product of the devil rather than for God. So both, have their criticisms. This is section 2, Theories of the Role and Function of Religion. Durkheim believes that religion is a set of myths constructed by humans to bring about social order in society. However, religion and its rituals are essential for everyday life, as it is a force for social good. Aboriginal totemism, which we'll go over later, is a very good example of this. Religion is an important form of secondary socialisation, and it socialises people into a collective conscience. Parsons agrees with Durkheim, and that religion performs three major functions. It provides moral guidelines, a means of adjusting to unpredictable events, and applying a higher meaning to events that have the potential to disrupt society. Malinowski argues religion functions to appease the stress and anxieties created by life crises, as they have the ability to undermine the social order. His anthropological study of the Trobriand Islanders showed that natural accidents whilst fishing caused the islanders to interpret their deaths as a will of God to minimise the grief. However, Bruce argues that the decline in religion in Western cultures makes it difficult to see how religion can socialise the majority of the population into morality if only a small minority attend church in these Western cultures. There is evidence that religion can be dysfunctional, but functionalists choose to ignore this. Marxist Hamilton observes that Durkheim is happy to stress that religion can inspire morality and heroism, but fails to acknowledge it and can also inspire mob mentality, a lack of logical reasoning, and atrocity. It can create huge amounts of suffering. Neo-functionist Bella, which is just like a more updated functionalist, introduced the concept of civil religion, which he believed has become the most influential type of belief system in the USA. This is a belief system that induces as a mass response, which with similar levels of passion, dedication, and commitment. The USA is dominated by civil religion, and it unites the American people regardless of class, race, and creed. American values such as the American dream is regarded as sacred and virtuous values that deserve veneration. Worship of God in the USA is inevitably the worship of American society and values. However, Beckford rejects the concept of civil religion because there's little empirical evidence for its existence or its effects. It's an overgeneralized concept. This way, all nationalistic activity could be interpreted as civil religious behavior. Marx saw religion as ideological in two ways. It promotes the idea that the existing class system is natural and God-given and therefore is unchangeable. In the 18th century, material success was a sign of God's favour, whilst poverty was viewed as an outcome of sin. The ideological power of religion is mainly aimed at convincing the proletariat that their socio-economic position is God's will, but they will be compensated for their suffering in the afterlife. Marx described religion as the opium of people and beneficial only to the bourgeoisie. However, functionalists argue that Marxists ignore the positive value of religion to society because it does create social stability and shared values necessary for order. Religion can no longer be a powerful ideological force working in favour of the ruling class, as religious beliefs and practices are in decline. Also, Marxism tends to focus on Christianity and ignores other world religions. It's also failed to keep pace with the emergence of more individualized New Age religions, whose followers often don't defer an external divine authority, and which are often uninterested in the economic world. Neo-Marxists, which is an updated version of Marxism, Gramsci, believe that hegemony is influential because the subordinate class are subjected to ideological influences in family, education, media, and religion. He argues that the poor don't experience false class consciousness, but a dual class consciousness. This means that ordinary people may subscribe to some aspects of the ruling class ideology, while their daily experience may make them critical of others. However, the neo-Marxist views are arguably outdated as they see religion as being socially very significant, whether it be a conservative force or an engine of social change. Maduro explains that religious ideas may promote social change and override ruling class ideology. He observes that the only place people can gather together safely in large numbers is religious places. Some religious leaders are very charismatic and speak out against inequality and repression in their sermons. Casanova explains the irrational nature of religious belief has caused much more war, persecution, and human suffering than any other belief system. However, critics argue that conflicts apparently based on religion are really about other issues. For example, the conflict between Northern Ireland and Ireland Republic is a political rather than a religious dispute. Some of the biggest conflicts during the past century involving millions of deaths have had nothing to do with religion, like both world wars. Weber believed that the role of religion was to meet social and psychological needs. Religion can make people feel more secure and hopeful as it makes the world look more meaningful, predictable, and ordered. Weber observed that people's social and economic position in society is mainly the product of the way society is organized. Different social groups will adopt different religious outlooks called theodicies to explain and justify their social experiences to themselves and others. Theodicies are people's attempt to understand their relationship with divine powers. Religious authority usually takes on three forms: charismatic, traditional, and legal rational. Social change may be brought about because influential religious leaders challenge the legal rational authority exercised by the law or government. For example, Joseph Smith in charge of the Mormons, encouraging male Mormons to practice polygyny, which I think that's multiple wives, could be wrong. Yeah, that's definitely multiple wives. Weber identified one particular theodicy, the Protestant religion of Calvinism, which caused dramatic social change in the 16th and 17th century. This religion believed in predestination, and the followers had no way of knowing their fate, so this caused anxiety. They set out to prove themselves to others that they were God's chosen ones for salvation. They saw work as a way of glorifying God. This led to the spirit of capitalism and the Protestant work ethic. The Calvinists reinvested their earnings into technology and the expansion of manufacturing empires rather than on luxuries. This accelerated the capitalist system. However, Frank suggested that slavery, colonialism, and piracy were more important than Calvinist beliefs in accelerating the development of capitalism. This is because these activities meant that countries such as the UK had already accumulated the capital required for fast and effective industrialisation. Kautsky argued that capitalism predated Calvinism and that Calvinist ideas were adopted by early capitalists as an ideology to justify their pursuit of profit and the inequalities associated with capitalist exploitation of workers. Both of these evaluation points are Marxist ideas. Simone de Beauvoir argued that men use religion to control and oppress women. Religion is also a way of compensating women for their second-class status. It deceives women into thinking that they're equal to men, while in reality, they're disadvantaged as the second sex. Religious laws and customs give women fewer rights than men. Daly argues that Christianity is also inherently patriarchal, with men made in the image and glory of God and women made for the glory of man. El-Sadawi argues that religious belief systems such as Islam and Christianity are not in themselves responsible for the oppression of women, but the culture of the early societies it was practiced in, where men were viewed as superior to women. She also argued that female circumcision is not a product of Islam itself, because the Quran gives no justification for the practice and rather a product of culture. However, Aldridge says that although religion may be patriarchal, this doesn't mean that they exploit and oppress women, or that women have no power over their lives. Aldridge is a Marxist. Woodhead refers to charismatic Christianity or Pentecostalism as an indigenous feminist movement because it emphasizes both the Word of God and the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God is essentially feminine, as it is loving and gentle. Lyotard argues that ideologies no longer exist, and that people have become disillusioned with meta-narratives. There's a greater degree of choice in postmodern society for constructing personal identity and lifestyle as their pluralist societies. Lyon in postmodern societies suggests that traditional religions have become disembedded or deinstitutionalized because of globalization in the mass media. Religion is no longer characterized by collective acts of worship, it's become individualized. This also links back to spiritual shopping, which globalization has helped through improved access of information. However, Bruce argues that many of the new religions are weak, as they fail to exert a profound effect on people's lives, moralities, and identities. He claims that many new religions go through a phase of being fashionable, where they often fade into obscurity once their interest or charm has declined. Bruce rejects the postmodern notion that group identities are no longer important. He concludes that postmodernism has greatly exaggerated the rise of individualism and the decline of traditional sources of authority such as social class. This segment is religious organisations. Weber and Trolech identified the following 5 characteristics that are specific to churches: a large universal membership, inclusive membership, hierarchical structures, a professional salaried clergy, and formally tied to the ruling establishment. Neither suggests that denominations are likely to share the following characteristics: relatively large followings, many members from working class backgrounds, inclusive memberships, national organisations, employed clergy, required level of commitment, and are happy to live alongside other religions. Wallace developed the category of NRMs. This describes religious organisations that claim to offer some sort of spiritual or possibly philosophical guidance that significantly differs from the guidance offered by traditional mainstream religions. Wallace claimed that the term NRM is too narrow and value-laden, so he split them into 3 categories: world-accommodating, world-rejecting, and world-affirming. World-accommodating NRMs are denominations. Their members lead conventional lives and conform to mainstream social rules. These religions are usually dismayed at the state of the world and organise mainstream religions, so they seek to re-establish old certainties while giving them a new vitality. They want to restore spiritual purity to secular societies using evangelism, which is spreading the word of God in a religion to get other people to join. However, the decline in religious attendance undermines the denominational status of some religions. World-rejecting NRMs are sects. Sects involve introversionist, conversionist, reformist, manipulationist, thaumaturgical, and revolutionalists. They require a great deal of commitment and don't have a professional clergy. However, it's unrepresentative to label all sects as dangerous because not all of them are. World-affirming NRMs are cults. Cults accept the world as it is and aim to teach people techniques in participating with others more effectively and releasing their spiritual and creative potential. Some features tend to be no worshipping of a god, but maybe something else supernatural, concerned with spiritual development, pay a fee to get their services, rarely a physical or sacred place, rarely offer radical alternative lifestyles, are tolerant to other beliefs, and they tend to come and go depending on the fashion or market demand. However, these aren't new because some of them have been around for centuries. Like the Mormons. I think that's a cult. Sorry, no. So, Mormonism is a world-rejecting NRM, which is a sect, and People's Temple is an example of a cult. Healers and functionalist Davies have labelled esoteric mixes of beliefs and practices based on environmentalism, psychology, psychoanalysis, and criticisms of New Age movements. Some characteristics of New Age movements can include a pagan belief in the power of nature of the environment, a belief in the notion of inner human potential, reincarnation, clairvoyance, fate and extraterrestrials, and they're people that appear to show humanity the right path. Bruce suggests that New Age movements contain a number of common themes which differentiate from mainstream religion. The self is divine, everything is connected, the self is the final authority, relative truths, and self-improvement as their main goal. However, it's difficult to see the difference between NAMs and world-affirming NRMs. They also have low international impact and importance, as only 2% of the population identify with New Age movements. The growth of denominations, sects, cults, and NAMs occur because people get disillusioned with an established church or faith. After people are excommunicated, they seek a new, more accepting belief system. The impact of social change is that anxiety is caused about the large scale and rapidity of change, so there's a counterculture rebellion. For working class people, they offer a supernatural explanation for their suffering and promise a way to improve their place in the world. Working class people that lack job satisfaction or are denied creative power at work find other means of obtaining status. Physical, mental, and addiction sufferers want to be healed. People feel that the world is wicked and is in moral decline and want moral certainty. And people want to find their spiritual self as they experience the world as too materialistic, lonely, and impersonal. Postmodernists argue that society has undergone profound social change and has evolved, bringing a crisis of meaning for some individuals. This means that they're concerned about the lack of satisfaction and fulfillment in their lives and confused about their role in postmodern society. People are no longer interested by meta-narratives or big truths that are provided by mainstream religions and science that claim that other points of view are useless. People believe that all points of view have relevance and validity. And this links back to the idea of spiritual shopping. They suggest that New Age world-affirming movements fit the tendency within a postmodern society towards greater individualism, self-improvement, and personal indulgence. People today feel more empowered to change what they're unhappy about in ways in the past that would have been viewed as selfish. However, Bruce argues that postmodernists overstate the extent of individual choice. He points to the continuing influence of group membership on identities. This is shown by the ways in which factors such as class, gender, and ethnicity continue to influence the spiritual life course. This segment is the relationship between religiosity and social class, ethnicity, gender, and age. Church-going is usually associated with the middle class. Research found that the middle class have an above-average church attendance, while the working class were far less likely to regularly attend. It was also found that people were entirely dependent on state benefits were the least likely to attend church. A YouGov survey found that 62% of regular churchgoers were middle class and 73% of skilled manual workers had never been to church. Attendance in wealthy rural churches is twice as high than in urban parishes. Attendance is higher in the south of England than the north. Denominations like Methodism mainly attract the skilled working class because the organisations are generally run by their congregations. They stress standards of moral behaviour that align with the interests of the working class. The poorest of social groups are attracted to sects because they offer divine compensation for their low economic status. The sense of community and having a safe haven compensates for their deprivation. Cults and norms are overly attended by the middle class, as the cost of spiritual investments can be high. They appeal to most people whose financial needs are satisfied, but they feel something from their life is missing. It's estimated that 500,000 black people in the UK are involved in Pentecostalism. There is evidence that suggests that African Caribbeans are more likely to be involved in sects. Religion can be a means of helping cope with the stresses of migration by providing a familiar concept in an alien society. Bruce argues that religion serves as a force of cultural defense. It preserves identity, culture, and language in uncertain environments. Davies argued that high levels of religiosity among ethnic minorities reflect conformity to religious controls that originate in societies with high religiosity that were closely policed. Durkheim argues that ethnic minorities can feel a sense of community. Marxists argue that people seek comfort in religious beliefs and practices rather than seeking to change their economic position as the white ruling class oppress them. Interactionists Norris and Inglehart provide the existential security theory, where there is a low demand for religion among ethnic minorities in the UK who feel economically or socially secure. Poorer people may face life-threatening risks on a daily basis, so they may turn to religion for security, comfort, and compensation for their daily negative experiences. Women are more religious than men. 50% of regular churchgoers were female and only 43% men. Field argues that men gravitate towards the least demanding levels of religious allegiance and commitment, with women seeking maximum degree of involvement. Bruce reports that women routinely describe themselves as religious and consequently demonstrate a stronger personal commitment than men. Functionalist Davies suggests that women feel closer to God because they're involved in the creation of life through pregnancy and giving birth. Bruce notes that being pregnant and giving birth give women opportunities for religious reflection. Feminist Simone de Beauvoir suggests that religious women may be the victims of patriarchal false consciousness. Shurkat suggests a risk theory. Men are more willing to take risks than women, and therefore are less religious because they are more willing to gamble with God and the afterlife's existence. Postmodernists believe that young women are more attractive to New Age religions because they're highly individualized and privatized. Middle-class women based in the private arena of their own home can easily access fashionable and flexible New Age beliefs and practices like hypnotherapy and yoga. Data from the English Church's census shows that 6.3% of children under age 15 regularly attend church. This drops to 4% between ages 15 to 19 and falls to 3% after the age of 20. 30% of churchgoers are over 65, even though this category is more likely to be ill or disabled. The aging effect explains why more older people are religious. People turn to religion as they become older as they approach death. They naturally become more concerned about spiritual matters such as the afterlife and the need to repent past misdeeds. Disengagement is the view that people become detached from the integrating mechanisms of society such as work when they get older. Participation in religion may compensate for this because religious organisations offer community as well as social and emotional support. The generational effect is the view that each new generation is less religious than the one before, as society becomes more secular. This is the last segment, secularisation, globalisation and fundamentalism. Religiosity in its broadest sense is a comprehensive sociological term used to refer to the numerous aspects of religion, including regular attendance at a place of worship, identification with a particular theological outlook or membership of a particular movement, and have set practices with a faith or with a dedication. However, religiosity is difficult to operationalize and measure. Wilson provides the classic definition of secularization. It's a process whereby religious thinking, practices, and institutions lose social significance. Here are some statistics evidencing secularization. People who identify themselves as Christian went from 72% to 59% in under 10 years. People who identify themselves as atheists went from 15% to 25% in under 10 years. People who identify as members of a denomination went from 30% to 10% in 83 years. They identify as 3 social reasons that people exaggerate their religiosity. It could be because they're born and baptized into it, because Christianity is proxy for the United Kingdom, and they see its identity as a marker of morality. Believing without belonging and belonging without believing. Bruce suggests disenchantment and socialization. This has 3 components: urbanization, social differentiation, and impersonal bureaucratic rules. He also proposes industrialization and religious pluralism. Weber argues enlightenment and rationalism of life, links to desacralization. Interactionists Norris and Inglehart explain the existential security theory that we looked at earlier. And Lyon explains Disneyfication, a process of mass marketing that uses a range of global media to provoke spiritual shopping. This is evidence against secularisation. Statistics of religiosity are unreliable, and there may actually be more believers, as religious organisations don't all use the same way of collecting their data. Parsons argues that church disengagement allows churches to focus more effectively on their central role of providing moral goals for society to achieve. The UK still benefits from 7,000 state-funded faith schools. Churches still play a major role in funerals and mourning rituals. Rationalisation is based on anecdotal evidence and not empirical scientific evidence. Stark and Bainbridge explain that choosing to be part of a religious organisation is a product of personal choice. They argue that everyone desires the rewards that only a religion can offer. Hilas et al. Argues that the secularisation argument ignores the existence of New Age movements. They're simply a new trend and alternative ideas that people have faith in a modern society. It's not that religion is declining, it's just that there's new types that are being followed. Nelson argues that the growth in evangelical churches suggests that the UK is undergoing a religious revival. These churches now offer more spontaneous religion, which has less rituals, and so is more appealing to the younger generations. The USA entirely contradicts secularisation. 40% of adults regularly attend church, and 40 million people watch televangelists every week. 90% of Americans claim to believe in God, and only 2% are atheists. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was really helpful. Make sure to check out my other sociology videos, and I will be posting videos on other subjects. I hope this was helpful. Good luck on your exams. Thanks for watching.